All right, guys, it's time for the Next Level Guy Show, a men's interview, interest, and improvement-focused podcast featuring interviews with the greats from all industries to help you better your life. Each week, a new episode features an interview with one of the greats, covering all aspects of their story, from life hacks to tips and protocols that have allowed them to live life on the next level. We then highlight concrete action steps that you can use to improve your life. And now, your host, Ian Dawson Mackay.
And today's guest is Matt Doogue. Matt is a professional photographer with a passion for capturing unique and stunning macro shots, focusing on capturing the intricate beauty of the natural world. He's worked with some of the most respected names in the industry and has been featured in National Geographic, BBC Earth and Canon. His new book on macro photography is now available at Amazon. Matt has not been shy about his mental health struggles, and his openness, vulnerability and honesty is refreshing and amazing. He's so helpful in breaking down the stigma, BS, that we as men are holding in society about what makes us men and what's acceptable for male mental health. He's a dedicated conservationist and wildlife enthusiast who uses his platform to help create debate and understanding on men's mental health, as well as to raise awareness and support for environmental issues. From highlighting the beauty of the natural world, leading outdoor trips and holidays, and teaching others, he's helping to educate and inspire others to protect our planet's natural state. And in this interview, we discuss how you can help your mental health and how you can use your passions to discover yourself and change your life for the better. Please note, we do cover some topics that you may find emotional, triggering and upsetting, but I feel these are key topics that need to be discussed, and Matt talks freely and openly about his journey and what he's found to work. And these are messages that need to be shared to today's men. We need to have these conversations, to have these discussions, to talk freely about who we are as men, what we need help and support with, and learn how to live life on our own journey and terms. And now, let's get to the interview. Thank you so much for coming on. It's an absolute joy. I found you initially through a post that you made on your social media, but you have some of the most amazingly beautiful artistic work as well. How would you explain what you do? Because it's quite a unique job and sort of creative enterprise you're doing. But how do you explain what you do?
I mean, there's probably various ways. I photograph bugs. It's probably the quickest way of saying it. I photograph very small things and make them look big, if only if it worked in all aspects of life. But yeah, that's basically what I do. I photograph insects, spiders, lizards, amphibians, snowflakes, ice, anything that's small, minuscule, and is almost hidden. I want to reveal it and show it to people. And it ties in very well with my mental health and the whole ethos around mental health and who we are as people. And when we hide away behind fakeness and fake personas and fake masks, etc., etc. So it all comes full circle for me. But yeah, that's basically what I do is I photograph very small things and I make them life size. And I hope that through my photography, I get to inspire people and make them ask questions about things, you know?
Do you think that's part of like what inspired you initially? Because the macro photography lets you sort of expose parts of society that we don't get to see, and it shines a light and it kind of blows it up into so we can actually see it. Is that part of the joy, and also links to the mental health where we kind of all, as men, we hide it. We all try to be powerful, I'll sort it on my own kind of attitude, whereas actually the worst thing we can do as men.
Yeah, there's a very poetic element to it. Originally, I was always into nature, wildlife, and insects. I remember being a young boy sat in front of the TV watching David Attenborough on a Sunday night. That was my thing. but growing up in the area in which I grew up in Salford, and this is a story, you'll be able to hear online me talk about this, but them things weren't cool. So as teenagers, you conform, don't you? You conform to your peers, you conform to the society around you, you conform to whatever the norm is at the time that's being sold to you, the meta, the alpha, whatever you want to call it. And you as a person, your uniqueness, your creativity, your personality, it disappears. You become this mold of what is around you. You're sort of shaped by the society and the peers, and you lose yourself. Um, so the interest was always there, but it very much became lost. It very much became ignored. And then through my years of being a teenage lad and being a bit of an idiot and a bit of a dickhead and doing silly things and being with silly people, let's just say, like I say, you become this fake person. And then when I had my breakdown, my first real heavy breakdown, it was almost that I wanted to rediscover who I was. And I was like, well, I'm going to just tap back into these happy moments from when I was a kid. And, I highlighted what they were. And it was things like insects, photography, nature, being outside, orienteering. I've got these vivid memories, and the memories slowly slip away as you get older, but there's always one or two that stick out to me. And I remember orienteering as a kid in school and just loving it, being like, this is mint, being out in nature, in the woods and all of that. So I'm like, I'm going to start going on these hikes with my wife's uncle at the time. And he had a camera and he was showing me his photography side of things. And I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. And got into the photography. He sold me a camera. I mean, without him selling me that camera, my photography journey probably would never have started, or it wouldn't have started in the way it did. And I tried every genre of photography, and I'd started learning about it, and it was something new, and it was something I'd never explored before. Photography wasn't a thing in my school at that time. It wasn't anything that I even knew to be a hobby. Photography for me was the teacher coming in and taking me picture for school photos. It was car magazines and stuff like that. I'd never thought of it of anything else other than those things. So when I realized, well, this photography opened up the world to loads of things, I was really interested and really intrigued. And I tried every genre. I went through like portraits and landscapes and doing daft little things in the kitchen, like light painting at night and just using slow shutter speeds to paint words like you do with sparkle. Or, I was just exploring this creativity. And that was like almost exploring myself again, and it was almost exploring my passions and what I wanted to do, not what other people wanted me to do. I was doing what I thought was cool, not what other people thought was cool. And I remember I was posting the stupidest of images, just like poker chips that I'd lit really nicely, and I was like, wow, that looks amazing. And I'm posting it on Facebook, and people are like, the fuck is this? And I thought it was cool, and I'm like, well, you're going to see it and you're going to look at it, say it's cool. And then I've discovered this genre called macro photography, and immediately I was enthralled, I was obsessed. It was these sick, amazing little creatures up close and just in your face, and claws and mandibles and antlers and antlers, antennas and everything that was just there. And I was just like, this is incredible. And I was down a rabbit hole, man. I was just like, macro photography was my thing. And at the time, whilst learning all this photography, I was unpacking a lot of stuff, trauma, thoughts, and feelings. But I was also going through a mental health crisis at the same time. And they kind of came to head at the same time. It was very surreal, a very strange moment of my life.
I love how you come alive when you talk about macro, when the photography, you can see that creative. It's almost like how I found with the podcast, because when I was a kid, you would go out and you'd fail, you'd play football, you'd learn skills, you'd go out in dinghies and you go explore and you do all these sorts of things. But then as an adult, suddenly oh no, people might judge you. Oh no, you can't do that. That might affect your career. Be married by 30, have kids by 40, do X, and it's a very similar, because when I found your post, I've been struggling with depression, I've had OCD, intrusive thoughts, and I know what it's like when you're sitting there thinking, I don't have that life that I'm supposed to have. And
mm,
you start beating the shit out of yourself, but you don't want to
mm,
take a risk. And I definitely feel like my contract at my current job is coming to an end. I decided to take a severance package, and I was like, I don't know who I am anymore. And when I found your post where it said, you can be here at the lowest point and you can actually find yourself, don't you know, like the best is yet to come. That
mm.
really inspired me. And I know it helps so many people. But as men, you lose yourself because you're trying to portray a character rather than the authentic version of yourself, which is
Yeah.
a very long way of saying, can you tell me a little bit about your, like, what were you like as a youngster? Because you've talked there about, going out and exploring with your uncle, etc. But you also were a
Mm,
carer for your mum. How do
mm.
you think that shaped? Did you think you were expected to lead, to be in charge of things and not kind of explore? You took on responsibility at such a young age?
Yeah, I mean, so my mum, um, rest her soul now, but she had multiple sclerosis, and I was probably her main carer from the age of maybe about 14, 15. I was always caring for her in some aspect of my life, but I became a real
Mm,
full-on main carer from the age of 14, 15. And that 100% contributed to my mental health crisis because I mean, I know this now, but I didn't know it then. I was suffering with abandonment issues. So, abandonment issues are usually from people who are adopted or parents have given them up or they've got no, that type of thing. And they suffer with this abandonment issue. And essentially, that's what I was having because my mum was taken away from me. I didn't have your normal mum. My mum was in a wheelchair. I was at the end of all of her frustration. So, when she was frustrated that she couldn't do anything, it was me who got it in the neck. At the same time, I was having to do my own washing, my own cleaning. She had carers who would come in and do hers, but I would often be making the meals. So there was almost a part of me that was restricted to do anything. I had to stay with my mum and do things with my mum, and then I could go out and do my own thing with my friends. But it wasn't always like that. Um, and I probably was quite rebellious, and as a young boy growing up in school, I wasn't popular. I wasn't picked for your sport teams. I wasn't I was the least sportiest person you'll fucking know. I mean, I've got two left feet. I cannot even kick a ball. You know what I mean? I can't run a bath. I'm that terrible. I mean, it's like, I am the least athletic person back then. And I see it now with young boys who are walking around and they're just struggling to make sense of the world and struggling to fit in with society. And that was me, hood up, dark clothing. And I became an idiot because other idiots found me funny and other idiots found me relatable. And I found them relatable because they were acting like me. But that was never really me. It was the mask.
mm,
It was the fakeness. It was, well, I'm suffering with these abandonment issues. I don't feel like I've got anyone. These boys, these people, this crew, whoever you want to call them, they're kind of accepting me a little bit. So I'm gonna latch on to that because I don't have anyone else kind of accepting me. Now my mum loved the bones off me, obviously, but she could never express that in a way in which a normal mum and son's relationship would happen. It just didn't happen because she was in a wheelchair. She couldn't move her legs, she couldn't move her arms. She has to operate with her head and touch buttons. She wasn't your typical mum. So I never had that real bond. Obviously, as a little boy, I had that bond, but when you're a teenage lad, when you need that guidance, no dad in the picture, and it's just like, well, where are you going to get that emotional connection from? Where are you going to get that support network? Well, it's going to be your peers, isn't it? It's going to be your friend group, and those were my people who I found a connection with. And you kind of do fall into this trap. And they say it's don't fall in with the wrong crowd. They say it often enough. You hear your parents say, "Oh, they fell in with the wrong crowd. They fell in with the wrong crowd." Well, sometimes they've got no other crowd that they can go to, so they go to that crowd regardless. And I see it so much now, and I see it. I've seen it for the past 10, 15 years, and I see these young boys and I've done talks in schools where I've seen them act up in the class, try and be the clown, try and be funny. And it's for the attention. And when you say that it's for the attention, people think they just want to be looked at. No, they don't want to be looked at. They want to feel included. They want to feel part of something. They want to feel like they've got purpose. They want to feel like they've got something to do when they get up in the morning. And that's why they act up. That's why they be idiots. That's why they do stupid things, because people will say, nice one, well done, haha, you're funny. And then they feel something, because the chances are when they go home, they don't feel that. Do you know what I mean? So that was my childhood and sort of my young teens up until sort of my late teens, early 20s, and that's when things just started going out of control and spiraling out of control. And I always say it was the mask was beginning to get cracked, and those cracked appeared like depression and anxiety and paranoia and anger management. That was the cracks appearing in the fake avatar that I'd created, this fake version of me that I thought needed to be present in the world in order for me to feel loved and for me to feel part of something.
Because I think that would probably hit home to a lot of men listening just now. I mean, I've got a very academically gifted brother, a very popular sister. That did make her sound very dodgy, actually. But, you know, I mean, I always felt like I was the black sheep, you know, like, and I know what you mean when you think you've kind of, like, my dad he wasn't very good at connecting and being able, because he just didn't get it from his family, so he didn't know how to do that. And you know, my mom was the amazing person, but she had plenty of jobs and she was always out doing stuff. So I always felt like I didn't really have a guiding point. And I think that's what they have, like a lot of men. They don't have a role model. And I think it's like, you know, like Good Will Hunting, the film, where they're on about his friends, and one of them's like, oh, I don't know why he hangs out with these idiots. And they're like, because if and the guy says to him, well, if he asked any of his friends, they would take a bat to anybody. You know, they would cave the head in of somebody because they're there. It's whatever they need, they're going to help their friend. And a lot of men don't have a role model. So we look for it elsewhere and we find bad versions of role models and we try to fit in. But you're not allowed to talk about your emotions. You're not allowed to talk about feelings of rage or not fitting in, because girls can talk, but we're meant to be strong, silent. You're meant to fix your problems and be, you know, the Cary Grants, the big, strong, dominant guys. And, you know, like when people were saying about Tony Soprano going to therapy, that was, oh, don't be silly, that would never happen. And you're like, there's plenty of guys now going and doing therapy, which I've done talk therapy, CBT, NLP and that. These things are life-changing. But when we were younger, they didn't exist. How do you think, like, what were your red flags? For me, it's things like my flat starts getting messy. I've started to notice my trigger points. But did you notice your issues then, or did you slowly learn them as you grew?
I 100% had no clue. I knew I had a short temper, but I always, what would the word be here? Justified it by saying, well, I've got a disabled mum, so I've got a reason to be pissed off at the world. But the reality was that was just an excuse. You know, my mum was disabled. She was disabled. Me being angry wasn't really, maybe it kind of did influence my anger, but it wasn't the sole purpose of my anger. It wasn't the source of my anger, not at all. Did it contribute to it? Of course it did. But as a young teenage lad, there was no real flags other than I just never felt like anybody give a shit about me, to be honest. I just felt like nobody ever wanted me as a friend, a real friend. Nobody ever wanted me as, you know, in their team, in their crew, other than these sort of muppets that I ended up befriending. But as a young man, you know, in my 20s, and especially now, you know, into my late 30s, I 100% recognize my flags. Like I get straight away when I'm feeling like, right, I need a day off. I need to go and do a float therapy tank session. I need to go and do a workout. I need to have a cold dip. You know, I need to have me time and just lock myself away for 4 hours on the PlayStation, you know, whatever it might be. I need to get out with my camera. My camera has been my elixir for life for a long, long time.
Yeah.
And I recognize it. But some days, the thing that I want to do, which is like photography, I get mad anxiety about going out. So I don't go out. So I know the thing that can kill me essentially for the day is on the other side of that door, but I can't get outside the door. You know, it's crippling because the anxiety is crippling at times. But I do I put on weight quite easy, so I know when I'm putting on the weight, I know my mental health is dropping, you know. And there's this, I don't know if it's just the new generation and the age of social media, but there's always this like pressure to say, oh, I'm cured of my mental health problems, or that's me done now. I don't have depression. That's bullshit. It never goes away. It's there.
Mm.
It's consistently there, and it will always be there. And that acceptance of knowing that it's always going to be there is it's fundamental in you getting through life. You know, if you had one arm, you would accept that you've got one arm, and you would cope and you would make reasonable adjustments in your life, as would your friends, your peers, your family, to accommodate you with one arm. Mental health should be no different. And when you begin to realize that and you go, well, you know what? Yeah, I do struggle. I do struggle sometimes making sense of the world. I do struggle sometimes in social situations. I do struggle sometimes with worrying about things and creating scenarios in my head that might not necessarily be true. That's fine. That is absolutely fine, because that's just you. You know, some people obviously have a medical condition where they may need treatment, and some of us, men like me, you, and whoever else listening to this, might think, you know what, I just have a lot of shit going on, and I just
Mm.
have no one to talk to, and sometimes it gets too much, and sometimes I need an outlet. But recognizing the things, some people struggle to do that, and then that's why talking like in these podcasts and being so open and being so honest online and in social media helps, because they resonate with it and they go, shit, I've never thought about it like that, or you actually sound like me, or you remind me of me. And I mean, I've had people say, you remind me of my brother, and now I understand what he was going through. You remind me of my late husband, I understand what he was going through now. Or you've allowed me to be able to talk to my son because I've listened to what you've said on the podcast or in your tweets or whatever. And we can learn great things from books. There's great knowledge there, but you learn so much more from experience and hearing other people talk about what they've done in life. And I think the more we do that, the more we do things like this, men will listen and they'll be like, yeah, that's me. All right, I get it now. I do have to do this, or I might have to do that, or I might need to go here. All right, cool. And they can get on and they can move on and they can move forward. But it's tricky. It is a tricky thing to know when you're struggling. But once you've found that sort of pattern and you recognize them patterns, you can then start putting in actions to control it.
Yeah. I mean, it rings a bell. I mean, every time I listen to one of your interviews, you're so deep and passionate and open and honest about it, and I think that really helps so many people, because I can remember sitting there just thinking, what do I do now? I've got the nice house, well, the flat. I bought a car. What else? What more am I to do? And I could remember thinking, what do I do? What do I do? And I've just constantly gone through rumination, OCD, obsessive thoughts, intrusive thoughts. And it was because you can't put it out and be open and honest about, that I started feeling suicidal. I started feeling fed up of life. I started feeling like I would sleep in most weekends and not want to be, I would want to stay in bed rather than be awake, because I thought, what's the point in life? And
Mm-hmm.
I know that there's so many people that are going through that just now. You putting this out there and helping so many people, it's life changing. And I think that's the thing, is we don't get told what we're to do. Like you did that amazing thing of looking after your mom, stepping up, going in, doing all these, helping her, which probably helped her so much and she was so grateful for. But you weren't praised for it because it was expected, if you know what I mean. And at such
Yeah.
a young age, it's we don't understand that. We don't see that as that's what you do for love. You see it as I've got to go. I can't go and hang out with my friends. And when I look back now, I saw my mum look after my terminal ill grandparents with cancer, and I thought, fucking hell, that's an amazing thing. Such love, and I was like, I don't know if I'm capable of that. And I found myself
Mm.
judging myself based on that, because I was such a selfish little prick, basically. But I always felt like me, rather than other people. And I think that's a lot of people lose their identity at that point, because
Mm.
we feel selfish for asking, but what about me? What about my stuff? What about my issues?
Mm.
And
Mm.
Was that the kind of thing that pushed you towards feeling like your suicide attempts to your feeling at that moment of just, well, I don't have value in life? And like so many guys are probably feeling at this moment because COVID took away, oh, you got a nice car. Oh, you're cool. Oh, you've got 1,000 social media likes. Oh, you're the man. Now suddenly COVID said, fuck it, you could die in minutes. Like you could have your whole family wiped out by it. All these kind of situations. There's a lot more important things in life now. And I think a lot of people have lost that identity. And I know I'm waffling, but I think I kind of feel myself in you in a way that you have that moment of kind of, fuck, and I'm feeling it now. And that's why I think I really kind of feel your podcast message more, because I'm 41 just now, and I'm like, what the fuck? What happened in life? I'm middle age now going.
But this is the thing, isn't it? Right? So the clear part of your sentence there at the end was, I'm 41 and I'm thinking, what the fuck am I doing with my life? Or what most men might think is, what the fuck have I done with my life? Well, you lived, you're 41, you're still here. There's something to be hugely fucking proud of. You probably had many interactions with many people. You probably made many people smile, laugh, joke. You probably made some people's birthdays, Christmases, whatever. You've done good things. You're still here. But why do we always do that? Why do we always say, what am I going to do with my life? Like, we need to do something. Like, we need a purpose. Like, we need to tick a box, right? And that's because of society. It's conformity, isn't it? It's that you see the social media posts of maybe someone you went to school with, maybe someone you just know in the area, maybe it's some influencer, and they're smashing life, what you would see as smashing life, right? Because that's your perspective, and your perspective is different to my perspective. Your perspective of someone smashing life could be completely different to my perspective of someone smashing life. See, when you said on the conversation when we got started that you lived in the Highlands and it was very rural and there was fuck all about, to you that might have been a shit perspective for life. You came to where you live now and you're like, now there's pubs and takeaways everywhere. Whereas for me, it's the opposite. For me, it's like living out in the sticks with just sheep as my neighbours. Sounds like my idea of paradise. So perspective is completely different from everyone. And so when we compare ourselves to these other people and these things, it's the biggest thief for joy. You've seen that, but you are comparing something to something that doesn't really actually exist, and especially when it comes to social media, And my suicide attempts, and it was twice, and the first time was, I'm like, what's the fucking point? Like, I've been here for however many years. I've lost my job. This, that, and the other was happening to me. Like, I don't even know who I am. I don't even know if I can be who I want to be. And it wasn't, and you'll hear this a lot, and you'll hear people say this, it wasn't that I wanted to die. I didn't want to die. Of course not. I just wanted to fucking rest. I just wanted to stop. Like, I just wanted to be like, you know what? I'm clocking out. That's it. Done.
You're fed up with feeling burnt out.
Yeah, exactly that. I just wanted it to be like, you know what? I'm done. And you don't think about anybody else. And you'll hear a lot of people say it's selfish and this, and even the term committed suicide, which is so outdated because committed was like committed a crime, because it used to be a crime. It used to be considered a sin. It still is considered a sin in various religions and whatever. But the term committed suicide is bullshit. It needs to stop. It's, you can use other words, but for me, it was just, I wanted it to stop. And at 18, 19, 20, however many years I was doing this for, it was a case of anybody who was older in the 30s and 40s who you might have briefly opened up to. What have you got to be stressed about at 18? What have you got to be worried about at 19? You can't be depressed. What have you got to be depressed about? And I'm like, and then, the doctor's kind of like, yeah, we can help you, but we don't really know what's going on. And you get put on a waiting list. And some people don't have the time to go on a waiting list, and there was none of this. There was no podcasts. There was no interviews. There was nothing. You might have got the odd one or two thing. And look, the awareness around mental health and suicide prevention is amazing, and it's getting better and better and better. But it means fuck all without action. And prime statistic for you here is like 20% of all NHS sort of patients or whatever is mental health related, but only 10% of the budget goes towards mental health stuff. So if it's almost making up, 1/5, but the budget is 1/10, doesn't weigh up, does it? But you know, we are pushing things like this podcast and being open with our tweets and helping each other, and Andy's Man Club and all the other amazing charities out there. We are being more vocal, and we are getting these group sessions where lads are talking and everyone's coming out and they're trying to do the bit. And we will eventually get there where mental health is considered to be up there with everything else that's considered to be a real something that needs to have an interest, and they need to take a look at it and say, actually, we need to help these people. So yeah, I mean, so I was waffling on there. I get into these moments where I just go and I just start talking, but it's the suicide thing it's just one of those things. It's hard to explain, man.
I think sometimes you can feel it kind of coming off your chest when you talk about, because I'm like, I can actually feel like I can be honest and say that because sometimes podcast hosts have this guru mentality of I'm this amazing person and no problems at all. And when I was younger, I mean, I didn't feel there, and I had the exact same reaction you had. What have you got to be, don't be silly. And I didn't have any friends that I felt I really connected with. So I went on and did chatted online to people and all this, and I had better connections with friends in America and stuff who had never met than I did with my friends I'd grown up with. And I can remember feeling just like I was 9, and everything I achieved, people were like, oh, that's amazing. And I just felt worthless, because as a man, it's almost like what you achieve, whereas a female, it's, they're all hugging each other, they're all connected, they're all deep connections. Yeah, they've got their own issues and stuff, but girls have babies. That's their purpose. With guys, what's our purpose? And it's that stupidity of thinking, and you don't know what your identity is. So of course you're going to punch walls, you're going to kick off, you're going to gravitate towards people that will just let you express these emotions. And I struggled, and I still do, and I still think I'm not part of. I'm sitting in a bar sometimes with friends at work, and I'm going, why am I here? I shouldn't be here. I don't fit in. I don't connect to these people. And now the more open I've been, the more helpful it's been by saying, no, I'm not all right. I didn't go to a mate's birthday party recently because I knew I was almost on the bed feeling like I was going to burst into tears. I felt like being social, I was so tired, the noise, I just needed a rest. I needed to stop trying to be a character of a version of myself. And when I found how beautifully you were in other interviews explaining this, I was like, fuck, you get it. You're open and honest, and I'm not surprised you're helping so many people. Was there a point that you just thought, nah, enough's enough? Or because when I went to the doctors and got antidepressants, yeah, they kind of worked for a while, but I didn't put enough actions in till I exercised and tried talk therapy. And also, if I talk about it, I keep the problem alive. I need to then go and act on it. What what worked for you to kind of start shining a light in that dark place you're in?
I suppose it was a mix of things. One, I didn't actually want to die. I didn't want to die. That was a key thing here. Realizing that, I was lucky enough that I had a small child, and I knew I had really something here to live for. I kind of wanted to beat myself. Sounds weird, but I wanted to say to myself, fuck you, I'm going to destroy you. I'm gonna prove to you that you are better than what you think you are, type attitude. I'd let so many people for so long tell me and convince me that I was shit from being in primary school, and this is like, you're not picked for the football teams, or you're not picked to play sports, or you're not picked to be with the cool kids, or you're not this, you're not that, you're not the other. For so many years, people telling me that I was worthless. You know what I mean? And I'm like, fuck that, I'm gonna prove to everyone that I am worth something. And I remember vividly being in the doctors, and when I eventually got to the doctors, and I didn't know what the fuck to say. Like, I was just like, well, if I start telling him what I'm thinking, he's going to be like, woof, straight to Meadowbrook. Now, Meadowbrook was the mental hospital at Salford Hospital. And I'm like, he's going to section me and boom, see you later. Because that's all we knew about mental health was people in white jackets. And we were sold this fucking story, wasn't we, by, the media, the schools, your peers, whatever. Disney movies where you have the villain who's psychotic and they're in these white coats. We're painted this picture that mental health is something that is really bad, and that you hear the term you're a schizo or you're nuts, and you hear all these nasty things growing up that you think mental health. Oh, if I've got mental health, I'm done for. Like, that's me. So when I'm in this doctor's surgery, I'm like, shit. What do I say? And I remember them calling me out, and I had a full-on panic attack because I'm like, what's going on? I actually thought I was having a heart attack. I'm like, oh well, that's me. See you later. And doctors, got me in the room, and they were like, what's wrong? And I just went, blah. And it was just verbal diarrhea. I was crying, and I couldn't breathe. And I'm just like, and I was speaking, and he's like, slow down, breathe. I start from the beginning. What is going on? And I just came out with everything. And I think I was in there for like 45 minutes. I was sweating, I was dripping. I mean, at this point, I think I was like 9.5 stone. I'd lost so much weight. Wish I was 9.5 stone now, mind you. But and it was like, fuck. And yeah, and they were like, right, basically give me a shopping list. When it went out, it's like, I'm diagnosed with this. You need to go here for anger management. You need to wait on this list to speak to this person about this, that, and the other. And I'm like, okay, fuck, I'm fucked. I'm broke. That's me. I'm done. And they prescribed me antidepressants. And I think I took them for like 3 weeks. And this weird thing started. Probably like the little tiniest spark from there was like, I don't need these antidepressants. Now, I will not say this to anyone. If a doctor prescribes you antidepressants, take them, because some people need them. And I will never say, don't take antidepressants. That's not what I will ever say. They didn't work for me personally. And that was a personal choice that I took when I said, fuck this, I'm going to do it without them. I am not advocating for you to do that. I'm not advocating for anyone who's listening to this to do that. This is just my journey, and I'm just telling you that experience. And it was literally the same week where I said I'm going to do it without them that the photography kind of came in. And that's why I said they kind of came in at the same time. Call it fate, call it whatever, call it the universe guiding you, whatever. It just went whoop, and they came at the same time. And that stole all of the worry away from me. I sort of put all of that bad negative energy into this hobby, because when I was out with the camera and when I was learning photography, it almost erased everything that was going on. And I know it now, but that was actually mindfulness, because you're mindful, you're in the moment, you're doing something. And I'd never had that opportunity to do anything like that before. Thinking about it, yeah, maybe gaming's your mindfulness moment. But other than that, I'd never had it. And so that's when the photography kind of hit home for me. And I'm like, this is actually helping me get better. This is slowing the traffic down in my head. This is actually, I did a couple of cones and a couple of lights and a couple of navigation zones to direct thoughts here, and here. And it's giving me time to think. It's giving me time to process shit. It's like a defrag for the brain. It was amazing. And the more I did photography, the better I felt. And when I speak to people now in my job, a mental health first aider, a mental health ambassador for the whole company, and a lot of people come to me for chats, and I always use the analogy of your brain is like a jar, and your jar is more often than not always 50% full, because you have everyday life to deal with, everyday shit, all right? Whether it's someone cutting you up in the morning, whether it's something going wrong, small things, whether it's your job, whether it's your family, whatever. Your jar is always 50% full with some thoughts and processes, right? But then when you start storing trauma and you start storing these thoughts and feelings over your life, your jar becomes 60, 70, 80, 90, and it's 100% full. So then when these little traumas start adding up and adding up and adding up and adding up, now, when we talk about trauma, most people say you need a big trauma to be affected mentally. But these little traumas also build up to a big trauma. 10 1Ps make 10p. It's the same thing. So your jar is full. So then when these little traumas happen, well, they can't go in the jar. So they come out, they just keep spilling out and they keep spilling out. And then you can't control that. You've got no more jars to capture it. So you're spiraling out of control and you don't know how to process things. And that's what happens when you don't deal with certain things, when you don't have that acceptance, when you don't understand what's going on with your body, when you don't talk to people. And I do a great thing with the kids in schools, and I've not been in the school since COVID, but I will always bring up one of the girls, and she'll open her hand, and you might have heard this in an interview, but I'll ask her to put a textbook on her hand, and then she'll hold it out, and I'll be like, okay, so that textbook represents that. Now, 25% of your jar, that represents everyday stuff. Then I'll put another textbook on, and then I'll get another one, and another one, and another one, and another one, and eventually the hand buckles, and all the books drop. I'm like, so that signifies a mental health breakdown. That signifies you can no longer hold on to all of them thoughts. You just can't. It's too much, and you've collapsed. So we're going to go again, but I want you to tell me what you can do to help this situation. So I'll go in with 1 book, 2 book, 3 book, and she goes, it's getting heavy. Boom. There's your first trigger point. There's your first moment of acceptance. For you, it's when I'm staying in bed. It's when my bedroom's getting messy. So that's it. You recognize shit is getting heavy, theoretically, you know what I mean? So I'm like, so what are you going to do? You're talking, you're telling me, so I can help. So if you want me to help, talk to me. Can you remove a book? Well, yeah, I can remove a book. That's having a conversation. But sometimes, some people don't have that. Some people don't. Boom, 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 boom. So I'll keep going with the books, and again, it'll drop. So then we go a third time, and then all of a sudden, one of her friends jumps up out of the class, and she puts a hand underneath, and they're supporting it together. And I'm like, and that's how important friends are. That's how important a friendship group is, a support network. It doesn't have to just be a friend. It can be a doctor, it can be a counsellor, it can be anybody. But they say, what is it? A problem shared is a problem halved, right? It's the same thing. So then they sit down, and then I always pick the biggest, fucking tallest, mustached boy out of the class, right? And they're always about 6'5", way fucking bigger than me. And I'm like,
10 years old, and they look like they're about 90, and you're like, what the fuck?
I'm like, you ain't 15, no way. But anyway, they come to the front, and I'm like, 1 book, 2 book, 5 book, 10 books, and they're fucking like this, and all the boys are like, hey, and boom. And then bang, he drops the books, 15 drops, and he drops it on his foot, drops it on his toe. He's like, fucking hell. And I went, you see what happened there? And all the lads are laughing and everything else. And I was like, you all watched him struggle, every single one of you. And you all cheered him on to the point where he was struggling. He was quite proud to struggle because he's a big, macho man. And he dropped the box. And what did he do? He ate his fucking toe. And I swore. Like 15-year-old kids, they're not scared of a swear word. I was like, and he ate his toe. I was like, and that is why 75% of the suicides are from males. I was like, because none of you agreed to help, none of you wanted to talk, none of you seen the symptoms, because you're all just stuck in this stupid conformity of macho man, go on, blah, 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 blah. I was like, and just like a light bulb moment, boom. We're all like, shit, yeah, he's right. And that is why we do what we do as men, because we want to be macho, we don't want to be seen as weak, especially in front of our peers, do you know what I mean, especially in front of the opposite sex. So when I talk to people and when we do these podcasts, I think stuff like that is sometimes an easy way of getting a message across, if that makes sense.
It's time for a quick break. There are millions of potential products to buy, so how do you know which ones are worth your hard-earned money? Simple. You go to nextlevelguy.com/affiliates and explore those that will transform and improve your life. You'll find deals, listener exclusives, and special offers with some great companies. Recommendations are 100% honest and only on items Ian has tried or believes in. The companies showcased will make you a better man in all areas of your life. Simply go to nextlevelguy.com/affiliates and level up.
No, definitely, because I think a lot of guys listening just now are kind of going, yeah, I know I've got a problem, but the thought of me opening up to a doctor, I mean, I can remember what it was like the first time I had to say to a doctor, I feel like this, I really feel that, and he actually stopped and went, yeah, okay, let's go through it. How's work? How's this? And suddenly having somebody to open up about it was amazing. But it's that moment of, fuck, if I say, like, you were saying, like, I might get sectioned if I say I feel suicidal, I feel like driving my car off a bridge, I feel, or I've committed a crime because I acted out with friends, or I punched somebody because I didn't know how to control my anger, and now it's like, how do I admit this to somebody? And what happens if I go to jail? And you start So your natural reaction then is to go, I'm taking this to the grave of me, and I'm going to go away. And rather than the girls who they all kind of come together and they chat and help each other. Where with guys, it's kind of, don't be the odd one out. Don't be the guy that kind of is touchy-feely when everybody else has been like one of the lads. And, and that hit home, because I could see that happening in my school. That kind of, don't be a woofter, don't be a da-da-da-da, all this silly stuff that we put on kids. And it's terrifying that we do that at such a young age. And then social media, and it's...
Social media is such a thing, isn't it? I mean, I've got two daughters. I have a 16-year-old autistic daughter, and that's a challenge. And I have a 14-year-old neurotypical daughter. And I talk about social media a lot with them, and when I've done the school things as well. Social media is nothing but a cherry-picked reality. That is all you need to remember when you're looking at it. And I'm guilty of it too. Like, you'll see they'll tweet from me where I'm like, I'm having a shit day, and I'll be open as well. But we only ever post the good stuff on social media. I've done it with a photography. I actually did a thing 2-3 years ago. I just started posting blurred shots, crop shots that didn't make sense, and people are like, "The fuck is this?" And I'm like, "Well, this is the stuff that you don't see."
Yeah.
I go out in that field for 2 hours. I don't just get bang, 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 great shot after great after great shot. No, the heck. I put in the work, and it takes me time and time again, trial and error. Every now and again, I get a good shot, but that's all you see. So when you're only seeing perfection all the time, and you're in a low place, and you're consistently reflecting your life onto other people's lives and saying, well, why is mine not like that? You're comparing against a false reality. It doesn't exist. You see that family photo where everyone's smiling and yay, but you don't see the mum 2 minutes before saying, get your ass here now, sit down, behave and pose for the camera. You don't see the arguments with the mums and the dads. Well, you sort the kids out. No, you sort them out. You just see ting and the smile. So it's a cherry-picked reality. It's not real. It's not this perfect life that is sold to us, especially on social media. On the flip side, social media is great because it connects people. It allows people to talk. Some people might feel more comfortable messaging a friend in America if they've never met, or even an old school friend, or even a family member, to say, I'm actually feeling shit today. Have you got 5 minutes to talk? Rather than picking up the phone and saying it, because sometimes picking up the phone and saying it is just like going into a doctor's. It's nervous. It's it builds that anxiety up. If you're suffering from anxiety as well, it's hard. So social media was great for that. And in COVID, it was perfect for that. People connected. We had the quizzes. We had the family gathering, all online. Social media is a double-edged sword. I have to take social media with a pinch of salt. And I have to often give myself time away from social media. Roughly about 3 years ago, I turned off all notifications for everything. The only notifications I have are from my family, text messages, that type of thing. I don't have any notifications on coming to my phone because it just stole my attention. It just stole my brain power. I had no way of thinking of anything else other than and then I'd go on, and then once I'm on, I'm opening Pandora's box, right? I'm opening this thing, the thing that I came on for. I forgot about 2 minutes ago because I'm now scrolling for an hour, looking at Jeff in the Barbados, looking at Rory, just got a brand new car, looking at, and these are just names I'm making up, but looking at whatever, and I'm like, fuck. And it comes back to what you said. What am I doing with my life? I'm 41, look at these, they're all smashing it. What the fuck am I doing? You start feeling shit. Why? You're comparing it to a false narrative, a false reality. Yeah, people might have good things going on. They definitely have bad things going on too, just like you do. Nothing is perfect. Nobody's perfect. Nobody's got a perfect life. Even your millionaires are unhappy. Do you know what I mean? It's a yin and yang, isn't it? It's a balance. It's a dark and the light. It's always going to be there. There's always going to be shit. There's always going to be good. And it's about where you put your energy, where you put your thoughts. If you're consistently stuck in a bubble of negativity, you're just going to be spiraling in there forever. Every now and again, you've got to say, actually, you know what? This is good in my life. I'm going to start concentrating on the good things that happened today. And if 80% of your day is shit, concentrate on 20% that was good. Because I guarantee you the next day you'll start looking for the good and you'll be like, well, 30% was good, 40% was good, 50% was good. Before you know it, you get to that acceptance level and say, well, some of it was shit, some of it was good. Nah, that's just life.
Uh,
Do you know what I mean?
I remember reading somewhere somebody saying, "Did you really have a bad day, or was 20 minutes bad, and that's all you're remembering because it was an emotional time?" And
Mm,
how because I think COVID helped because so many people could be open because at a distance they could say, "Do you know what? Actually, I'm not feeling right." And you weren't in face to face with somebody, which
mm-hmm,
you would maybe have to say at a family gathering. And I think I interviewed a guy called Steve Cam ages ago, and he wrote a post about the berserker rage, about how
mm,
berserkers would go crazy and battle and all that. They build themselves up. And he said, well, what about using that as a berserker confidence? Just that
mm,
20 seconds of grab yourself, no matter how you do it, and just be open and honest and say how you're feeling, or go to the
mm,
doctor, go and try this, go and ask for help, because it can be life changing. And a lot of men will be sitting just now thinking, yeah, but I can't, that, and you can feel the weight getting pressed on the chest. You can find the
mm,
excuses and that. And sometimes it
of
just
course.
needs that 20 seconds of, fuck it, I'm going to go and say this. I need to go speak to the doctor. I need to do this. Because I found that I've actually got it written. Where is it? It's up here somewhere. Create, not consume. When I created the
Mm,
podcast, I interviewed people because I couldn't find the answers to why am I unhappy? Why am I not connecting with people? Why my relationship's not working? Because nobody wanted to admit, oh, I had a bad breakup and I'm still pining for my ex. Nobody wanted to admit these weaknesses. It's like social media. You're comparing your entire life to somebody's cherry picked highlights on it, and judging
mm,
your ability of your value as a person on it. It's stupidity, but we all do it. And I think that's the problem is we consume it all. You don't know what to do. So you put all the emotions in. You don't know how to talk to people, especially if you're a man. And then you start internally destroying yourself about it. We as men don't know what to do. We just don't see a value in our lives. So you start thinking, I'm going to go drink drugs, casual sex. I'm going to go break up my marriage because I don't want her to see me like this. So I'll
mm,
go and cheat because it's easier than putting her through this. And we
mm,
do such stupid things as men. And since I started the podcast, just being able to speak to amazing people like yourself has changed my life. It helps
mm,
me mentally. It helps me with techniques, changing it. I've had people write to me and say, that episode really helped me. I had a guy tell me about stabbing his wife because he was an alcoholic. And I was like, fucking hell. And then when he said about how much it helped him come to terms with his issues and how he helps other people now as a psychiatrist deal with those kind of problems. I've had
mm,
a guy who went to jail tell me about how just writing a CV for some new prisoners coming out would make them feel like somebody actually valued them. That was the nicest thing
mm,
somebody had ever done for them, helping them go apply for a job because no one else had ever taken some time. They were just a prisoner. He was treating them like a real
mm,
person. And he said just things like that. And it really hit home of, fuck, like these things could change lives. And if I could help anybody, that would blow my mind. And I really hope somebody can take things from each of these episodes because you being open and honest like that is potentially saving lives. And I know you're probably helping people. You helped me just by listening to your podcast, gave me that reminder of kind of you can make the change. You don't have to be there and here's your flags and here's how to see it. That like
mm,
the book thing you talked about in an interview. I was like, bloody hell, that hit home. And it
mm,
reminded me of that little Ian. That sounded so wrong. That little version of Ian being in that school, seeing that and how much that would have helped me rather than finding it at a 30, 40-year-old man going, I wish I'd known that when I was there. I wish I had somebody like Matt when I was younger. I'm probably
mm,
talking far more than I would do in a normal interview because I think you're kind of opening up that part of me that never gets
mhm,
out there. And I love how you use your creating of art to help you. Do you think that's
mm.
what you get from photography? That it's that creation of art, that putting something out into the world rather than consuming it from the world?
Yeah, 100%. And the photography, it allows me to showcase the beauty of this world, which we definitely take for granted. And it helps my mental health, of course it does. Funny thing about the book, when I was writing the book, sort of last year and the year before, I didn't pick up the camera for about a year afterwards because I was fucking bored of photography. When you're writing about it for a whole god knows how long, you're like, I don't want to see a camera. Like, get a camera away. You know what I mean? And I was just like, but no.
But it becomes that
it's funny.
cathartic fix, writing the book, putting the
Yeah.
emotions out.
Yeah, and I've even put in a bit about mindfulness in there and the benefits of nature for your mental health. And I've said this to all my friends and my family and anyone who asks about, I'm struggling and stuff. I'm like, first and foremost, always go to a doctor, always go and seek a professional. I am not a professional, but I'll tell you one thing that did help me: getting outside. And you'll hear people say, go for a walk when you're pissed off. Go and cool down for 5 minutes. Go for a walk. Yeah, go for a walk. Because once you're outside, I guarantee you, things start making more sense. Things become a lot clearer. Because when you're trapped in the moment, you're trapped in the moment. So realize that word. You are trapped in the moment. Get out of the moment. Get out of the situation. Go outside. Things become clearer. And nature has a special, powerful ability to center you and bring you back right to the present. Just live in that moment. If you're walking down a path and a piece of rain drops on your head, what are you thinking about? You're not thinking about the argument. You're thinking about, shit, rain just dropped on my head. When a bird lands in front of you or it's in the tree next to you singing, what are you thinking about? You're thinking about the bird. You're not thinking about anything else. So if you actually put yourself in that situation where you've got nature, trees, that even the smells of a forest alone has been proven to calm you down and relax you. You put yourself in these elements, you're giving your brain a fucking real good chance of just resetting, switching off, calming down. And then when that happens, your jar starts emptying. I can now process things. I can now deal with shit. I can go back and I can be like, right, I'm gonna tackle this. I'm gonna deal with this head on. But you said something there when you were talking, and you said, these weaknesses. Now, why are the weaknesses? Why do we do that? Why do we say weaknesses? They're not weaknesses. They're just things that are happening.
Yeah.
But why are they labeled as weak? Why do we have something labeled as weak, something that's strong? Why do we say that? Because you're doing this, it's weak. Because that's why men don't cry, because it's weak. It's fucking not weak. I cried this morning. I'll be honest with you, because I'm having a tough situation with my daughter right now, and it's tough. No fault of her own. I would love to take everything away from her that she's going through right now, but there's a tough situation. And it was this morning, and I was like, fuck. And I had a cry. 5 weeks ago, driving to work, I had a cry. Because do you know what? It helps. Do you know what I mean? You just have to get it out there. You feel that pressure, you feel all that noise, and you're just like, and you have a cry. Have a cry to yourself, man. Fucking go and cry. I don't care. Nobody gives a shit. Like, nobody cares if you cry. Like, you're sold this narrative that people care. Movies, hard men, all this bullshit you see in magazines. Do not cry. Fuck off. Cry. Because they don't care if you cry, and you don't care if they cry. I don't care if you cry. Most people don't give a shit about you when you're walking past them down the street. Nobody judges you. You might think they're judging you. You might think they're looking at you. They might think they're saying, oh, look at him. He's this, that, the other. Briefly, they might look at you and make a quick judgment. 5 minutes later, they're shopping, buying a steak, buying a fucking corn on the cob. I don't care, whatever.
No.
They're doing something else. They're getting on with their lives.
They're worried about themselves, yeah.
You're not as important as you think you are. You're really not. And I mean that in the sense of, you're not in people's minds all the time, and we get so confused with ourselves that we think people are going to be doing these things, judging us and thinking nasty shit about us if we just ask for help. No, if you are struggling, go and get some help. Go and talk, because I guarantee you, if you broke your fucking leg, you'd be in the hospital and you'd be saying, put a cast on me and give me some crutches so I can navigate life. Your mental health is no different. Go to the hospitals, go to the doctors and say, put a cast on me and give me some crutches to get through life. The crutches might be the antidepressants. The cast might be a counsellor. Just a different word, just a different meaning. It's still the treatment. treatment is treatment. You know what I mean? And I think as men, yeah, we do have this pressure put on us still from society. It's still there. It is getting better, of course it is, but it's still there. The pressure to get the house, the kids, the mortgage, to have an amazing this and amazing that, blah, 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 blah. None of it matters if you're not happy. None of it matters a fucking bean if you are not happy. Do never, ever sacrifice your mental health and happiness just to please other people. And I learned that when I tried to kill myself. And I'll never do that again.
No.
I am 100% my own biggest fan, my own biggest backer now. And, you know, that's why I do the things I do.
I mean, maybe that's the journey that you had to go on to get to that point, because you're there to help people who are going through that. And I sometimes think, I look back and I say to people who have done really bad things and have said, maybe you needed to go through that in your life to get to that point where you realized to stop other people doing it, or to have that insight to be able to help people and change their lives and do all these sort of things. And I mean, I remember that first time I cried after I was in love with this girl. She split up with me. I felt like my soul and heart had been ripped out. And I remember saying to my brother that I was so close to tears. And he said, "Yeah, crying's good." He goes, "I cry." And suddenly having this manly brother of mine, I was like, what? And then it helped our relationship because we were being open and honest. And he was telling me about mental health things that he did after he broke up with his girlfriends and stuff. And, you know, it can be like going for a walk. It can be creation of a new hobby. I mean, I found jiu-jitsu was the first time I felt completely tired, like not mentally. It physically, it had let me put everything out, all the problems, all the stress in the world. And after the training session, I felt, this is amazing. And that was my therapy.
Serotonin boost. Like,
you know, it was just that I got kicked shitless by little girls who'd been doing it for like a 150-pound purple belt and stuff, you know. But I mean, I was just kind of like, I can see the appeal of that. And, you know, for you, it's photography. For me, it's jiu-jitsu or the podcast. And I stopped doing it because I couldn't be as good as I wanted to be. And now I need to get back to it because I realized that I've given up jiu-jitsu because of someone else's opinion of me not being perfect. And that's how stupid, you know. And I think that's the thing just now. So if guys are listening, archery, jiu-jitsu, whatever it is, how do you use photography to create mindfulness practice? How could we use whatever the hobby is to create that mindfulness? Is it just giving yourself out into that moment where that creation, that kind of being out and switching off from the noise helps, do you think?
Yeah. I mean, with photography, especially in nature, you know, you have, like I said before, it has that ability to just do that for you. And with any hobby, it's a redirection of energy, isn't it? It's a redirection of your thoughts. So you're not sat at home twiddling your thumbs thinking this, that, and the other, blah, 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 blah. You're actually thinking, shit, I'm going to get out of this fucking chin lock. Or how am I going to photograph this insect? How am I going to compose this shot? How am I going to light this photograph? How am I going to get this bow in that archery fucking target or whatever? You know, and most recently, the last 2 years, I've gone on a mad, crazy fitness journey. You know, I've been doing all these fundraising activities. I've been doing these crazy challenges. So for me, it's been training as well as photographer. So now I've got two outlets. You know, if anything, the training's took over. It's become a bit of an obsession, to be honest. But I have two outlets now. So I'm like, right, if I'm needing to redirect the thoughts, I might go and do a 10K row. I might go and jump in the ice bath. And ice baths are great, by the way, for your mental health. Or I might go out on the camera. It's not so much necessarily the hobby or the genre. There's not like a specific, like, oh, photography will do this. That's not how it works. It's you're giving yourself something to do in the plainest sense of the thing. You're giving yourself something to think about other than life, other than what you're worried about, other than what you're stressing about. And that is what mindfulness is. It's being in the present moment. It's living in the moment. It's not predicting a future that's not happened yet, and then you start living in that future, which is fucking stupid because you're living in something that technically does not exist. So that's crazy. You're not living in the past. You're not thinking about the past, because why would you worry about something that you cannot literally change anymore? Yeah, you might have feelings about it, Yeah, people might have opinions about it, but there's fuck all you can do about it.
Yeah.
So just move on from it. The great thing about mindfulness and hobbies and things like that is you're doing it there, then, that moment, right now. You're talking, boom. You're acting, boom. You're rowing, boom. You're in a cold plunge. You're fucking out photographing. You're out running. You're out in a headlock and you're getting battered in some jiu-jitsu fucking rolling mat somewhere. That's what it's about. And I think that we are naturally driven, especially as just humans in general, to have a goal, right? From being born, you're told goals, and your goals are, well, you are man, you must produce. You are this, you must do that. We're all goal orientated and we're all trying to build and write our own story. Whether we knew it or whether we know it, that's happening, right? We're all trying to create our own story. Goes back to what you said. What am I going to do now at age 41? That's chapter 12, right? You're writing this story. So write it, do it. Start thinking about these things, you know what I mean? And setting goals is a fucking fantastic way of doing it. With once I got the photography, it was like, all right, I want to win a competition. I want to learn how to do photography in this way. I want to learn this genre. They're goals. I'm moving the goalposts all the time, so I'm keeping busy. I'm keeping climbing. With the challenges and the fundraising that I do now and the fitness, it's like, all right, I'm rowing. So I rowed 100 miles in a space of a month to raise funds for autism. Okay, that was great. I took 4 weeks off after that and I felt like shit. All right, I need a new goal. So I set 1,000,000 meters. Don't ask me fucking why I said 1,000,000. It was crazy, but I did 1,000,000 meters over 5.5 months and I raised 10.5 grand for Young Minds UK. They help kids get the help they need before they get to a crisis point. Great charity. And then I'm like, right, this is great. Me setting these goals, raising money and awareness, talking about mental health. This is helping me, it's helping others, and it's helping charities. All right, I'm going to set another goal. So then I actually just, in June, just back there, I rowed in the ocean. So I did 100 miles in the ocean and I set a challenge and I set a goal. So setting goals is a great way of having that mindfulness and having access to that mindfulness and having access to that accomplishment, that feeling. Because let's be honest, we all love accomplishing things. We all love doing something and going, yeah, I fucking did that. I've done that. And when you're feeling shit and when you're feeling super low, there is nothing better than accomplishing a goal. Because you're giving yourself a pat on the back. You put in the hard work. You got up every day. You did that. Buzzing. Pat on the back. And then you feel mint about yourself. And then you're like, actually, you know what? I am good. I am worthy of life. I can get through all of this shit that's going on in my life. Boom, let's do it.
That would have helped so many people. I mean, if I had heard that when I was younger, I'd have been like, fuck. That, because we stop pretending to be somebody then by being mindful and actually being in the moment and taking action, which I think being the creative hobbies helps, or just any action, because it makes you forget everything else, to stop playing the version of yourself. It's to actually be just feeling that moment. Like, that, I can't remember what they call it, where it's like the 5 senses, where you say what you can see, what you can feel, what you can hear, what you can, and just by doing that, you ground yourself to that moment when the noise is getting crazy and all that kind of stuff. And I've almost had a panic attack on a plane feeling claustrophobic, and that really helped me going into my head because I was stressing about work and all that. And just by feeling myself in the seat, seeing the fat guy in front of me, seeing the guy over there, I was like, okay, I'm here, I'm alive, I'm with family, I'm with friends. And it was just that moment of, stop thinking about the future. Stop regretting about the past. You're here and now. Have the conversation. Enjoy the shitty plain food. And it was suddenly like, be present. And it's like, what you try to do? Not have any bad things happen? Because you said in another interview about you need the bad to balance the good. And I love that, because if you don't have ups and downs in your life, what happens? Like a heart monitor, you flatline, you die. And I think that's the thing. We think bad things are a bad thing. They're not. It's part and parcel of life. We beat ourselves up about
lessons.
it.
Lessons. They're lessons. I had this conversation, weirdly enough, yesterday with my 14-year-old daughter about sometimes days are bad. Sometimes they are. It can't be perfect all the time. And it never is. It never has been. I don't know why people believe it can be a possibility. It can't be. The bad happens. You have light, you have dark. You have a knife, you have a fork. You have salt, you have pepper. There's always an opposite. There's always something going on. Look at science. It tells you. So, yeah, we have bad days. And we need the bad days to appreciate the good days. Do you know what I mean? And I'm not saying that I wish bad days upon anyone. I don't. It's not that. It's just that once you accept that, well, you know what? Today was a shit day, but tomorrow's going to be a fucking awesome day because I'm going to make it an awesome day. Do you know what I mean? And yeah, it is that balance of life, and it's learning to navigate. There's a great meme that I see all the time, and it's like a picture of a bus cartoon, and you've got two windows, right? And the guy on the left-hand side is looking out the window. It's just fucking mountains, because just like rocks. And he's like, And the guy on the other side of the bus, he's looking out the window, and it's a fucking the edge of the mountain and all the view and the vista and the sun. And he's like, fucking hey, this is mint. The guy on that side of the bus thinks his life is terrible. He's like, shit, look what I'm looking at all the time. Look at my viewpoint. All he's got to do is get up and fucking get to the other side of the bus and look where that other dude is. That's as easy as it is sometimes. That's as easy as it is sometimes. Do you know what I mean?
Because that's the thing, isn't it?
Sorry, can I just 1 second?
I go for
My wife and my daughter are getting in their cold plunge. So they're just waving outside. There's someone else there just getting in.
Because that's the thing, we beat ourselves up. By taking action, you're actually doing something. You're actually going out and, we could talk about like sleep, we could talk about food, and I think sometimes just taking action, not try to be yourself, but actually going off and being the person that you're there. But what happens if you do slip up? If you're starting making changes, you're finding yourself, you're being the person you want to be. What happens if you do have a slip up? How do you review a day now, and how do you look back and go, okay, that's a warning sign? How do you recover yourself so you don't slip back in the old ways?
I would never put pressure on myself to say that I would never slip up in the first place.
Yeah.
Because that's the recipe for disaster. For me to say that I would never lose my temper again is too much pressure on myself, because then when it does happen, I feel even worse. So I don't give it any thought. I just say, well, you know what? If I do lose my temper one day, or if I do whatever, I do decide to ring in sick work one day because I just can't be arsed with the day, I'm not going to beat myself up over it, because I've had to do that. If I lose it, and we're talking like, let's say we're talking like drugs, rehab, alcoholic, and all that type of things. Look, life is a journey. There's no perfect script for any of this. You can't be so hard on yourself. If you are someone who is addicted to drugs, fuck you might have been addicted for 10 years. Even if you did 4 months, then have a slip up. 4 months is great. You've been doing this shit every day for your life for 10 years, and then you did 4 months without it. That's fucking amazing. So why would you give yourself grief over that? You dust yourself off and you get back in. You try again and you try again, and eventually it becomes habit. Eventually it becomes what you need to do, and eventually you get there. Don't ever be too hard on yourself ever for things like that. It's going to happen. Don't ever think that it's not. And you know what? If it doesn't, fucking mint. Like, you're great. Crack on. Do you know what I mean? You've cracked it. But it happens. I have my days, man. Like, all the time I have my days. And I'm like, you know what? Okay, let's write tomorrow off. Let's write today off, and we'll start again tomorrow. Because what is it, that song they say? It's just a bad day. It's not a bad life. You know what I mean? And it's the same thing, isn't it? It's just a bad day. And the days, we have fucking so many days ahead of us. You're going to have bad days, bro. You're going to have good days. You're going to have some days where you have a bad and a good day in one day. That is what's going to happen. And you just got to be prepared and ready for that, and know that, all right, it's a bad day. Let's get on. Next day, next day might be a bad day. It might be a bad week. It's not going to be a bad life. It's not going to be you forever. If you think it is, and you concentrate just on that, you're not giving yourself any favors, are you?
Eventually, the weather will change. The sun will come out. It can't always be negative.
No, I mean, I've been made redundant so many times, and I've been like, shit, what am I going to do? Jurassic Park quote: life finds a way. You know what I mean? It does. Things happen. Things just progress, man. Like, we live way too much in our heads. We live way too much in the future situations that are just not real. We really do. And it's just because we've never been taught any different. We just haven't. But things like this will help people.
Well, I know you've got to get to a cold plunge. I would love to have you on again so we can go in, because I realise we haven't even talking about macro photography, how you take the photos without interacting, without manipulation of the animal's habitat. I had so many questions on that, but I knew you were going to be amazing, and I think you're changing lives. And it's to see where you came from to where you are now. It's fucking incredible, and I know that you'd have just. I know I've taken so much from this, and that reassurance that actions I need to check or the checkpoints I need to remember and stuff. So guys who are in the start of their journey are going to be like, okay, I can go and speak to a doctor. I can admit to my loved one that I'm having a problem, that I didn't know how to be a good partner because I've never seen a good relationship in my life, or whatever it is that they're struggling with. They can deal with it. And you've been there now. Yeah, it's a horrible time for you, but I think you've been then saying, this is maybe my mission, to help people and be a badass photographer and be a great father and being a great partner. And, we don't give ourselves the credit.
I am not perfect by any means, and I never try and sell myself to be. And that's why I am so open, and that's why I am saying, what, if I'm having a bad day, I'm having a bad day. You'll be surprised at the amount of people who don't want to speak to people about their problems because they're scared of judgment. Yet when they speak to the people, they're like, oh shit, you're struggling too. Or, oh shit, you're not as bad as I thought you were going to be. I remember being told
their problems.
Yeah, exactly. And they talk and they're like, actually, I'm going through something the same. And you're like, oh, and then you have this, conversation. I remember something I was told in my early 20s, and it was a bit of a career advice, and it was, I was going to ask a boss for a promotion. And I remember this old guy saying to me, I think he was like 70, and he was still fucking working. And he was like, what are you fucking worried about? What's the worst that can happen? He's either going to say yeah, or he's going to say no. That's it. If he says yeah, you get your promotion. If he says no, you ask him why, and then you work on it, and then you get your promotion anyway. He's like, so what are you worried about? He's like, you're in your head, you're going to do this, you're going to that. You don't even know. Go in. Yes or no. Those are your options. That's what you're going to get. And I went in. I got a fucking no. So be it. But I still went in. I built up the courage. And it's like what you say about the whole courage thing. And, we're talking about aggression briefly. There's a fine line between aggression and passion. And I've read this and I've heard this on a podcast before. I think it's actually the same fucking drive and the same hormone, that aggression and passion are the same things. And a lot of us get misconstrued to be aggressive, but we're not. We're just passionate. We're passionate about certain things, and I can come across certain sometimes as being aggressive about a certain topic, like ethics and macro photographer, creativity about macro photographer. It's an aggressive approach. No, it's a passionate approach. That's time for another podcast. Nah. We can talk about that on another one.
I mean, because that's what I find is, like, if I'm aggressive in jiu-jitsu, I fail because you try push the situation and it doesn't go right. But if I'm just laid back and confident and all that, I don't do it. So it's like you're saying, there's that fine line between ego and passion. There's that, I have got a question on it somewhere where it's like, how do you keep that balance? And it's like finding yourself and using your hobbies. And there's so much I still want to chat to you about. I think you're such a fascinating guy, and I'd love to be up in real life, go for pints and stuff, because I know you're such a nice guy, and I can see you changing so many lives. But what would you want people to take from this before I let you endure your cold plunge? Till we can get you on again and really go in and keep helping so many people.
I'll definitely come on again. Right, we can do a full good 2 or 3 hours easy. What would I tell people? This is a tricky one because everyone's unique, right? Everyone is different, and we genuinely think that we're not different, and we genuinely think that we're stuck to a type of genre or box, and we're not. We're all completely unique and completely different. Everyone has a unique view of you in their mind, so effectively there's a million versions of you going through the fucking world right now. The only one that really matters is the one that you know, which is you. And if you are struggling, and if you are thinking, my life is this, my life is that, my life is the other. Go and speak to somebody, whether it be a friend, whether it be a doctor, whether it be me. Fucking drop me a message on Instagram, Twitter, whatever. I will talk to everyone. Whether it be a stranger at the bus stop, whatever, just go and speak to somebody. And it sounds super cliche, and it sounds like you see all these posters that say, speak up, it's okay to talk, etc., etc. And it can become almost monotonous, right? It can almost become invisible because it's now become so visible, if that makes sense. But it fucking works wonders. It really does. Go and speak to someone, because I guarantee you one thing: it's never as bad as it is in your own head. Our heads are probably the worst place to live. They really are. They
Hell yeah.
play horrible tricks on us. They make us feel shit. And the outside influences from the world do not help. But when you're having a conversation with somebody, you can bounce off each other, you can talk about things, you can be open, and you can actually. The weird thing is when you're talking, you're listening to yourself whilst you're talking. And that's the great thing, is that you understand yourself when you talk to somebody else. And that's how counseling works, in my opinion. You talk to a counselor and you actually saying things, and then you're like, oh shit, oh actually, yeah. And you're realizing things about yourself. But talking is key. Never, ever suffer in silence, man. Just don't do it. Like 1% a day. Like, if you have a conversation for 3 minutes, so be it. And if you put the phone down and you're done for the day, you're done. Bro, you did 3 minutes, you did nothing the rest of the fucking days you've been doing this. So 3 minutes is great. And if you get 5 minutes, and if you get 10 minutes, and if you manage to get the courage to go and meet your mate and go around and have a mooch around the park, go and do it. Clubs like Andy's Man Club and all the other ones that are coming out now, go to them. Go to them. I swear to God, when you get in those clubs, you'll be like, shit, you're just like me. Plasterer, scaffolder, businessman, MD of a fucking company.
Yeah.
Fuck, you've turned up here in a fucking Porsche, and you've turned up here in a Ford Fiesta that's from 2002. Both got the same problems. Both got the same issues. Both don't know how to navigate this world. Why the fuck have I been so worried for all this time? Let's have a laugh. Let's have a joke. Let's talk about shit. Let's have a brew and a couple of biscuits or whatever. You know what I mean? It's that is the key for it all. Is talking. The next big thing is acceptance. Look, I've said this before. If you were born with one arm or one leg, you would just fucking get on with life. Yeah, it's shit, but you'd fucking get on, right? So if you've got mental health problems, if you've got a drug addiction or something that you're trying to battle and get through, that is the card you've been dealt. Learn how to play with that deck. Just get on. Right, all right, I've accepted it. This is me. This is who I am. I'm going to have bad days, I'm going to have good days. Some days I'm not going to be able to navigate life. That's me, man. Someone out there might be able to help me. I'm going to go and have a chat with them. Somebody out there might be able to give me some direction. I'm going to go and head that way and see if I can get it. That's just your life. There's no badness. There's no negativity. There's no one looking down and going, you're shit. Fuck off. You're amazing, man. You are a legend. You are you. You are badass. You know what I mean? Like, you can be what the fuck you want to be. You really can. Don't let anyone tell you any different. And I guarantee you one thing: you can be better than what you think you are.
I'm so glad people like you are in the world, because there'll be people listening just now probably wiping tears away thinking that's the nicest thing somebody's ever said to them. And, they have this internal cesspool, this prison they carry around in their head where they're thinking the world hates them and all that. And like you were saying earlier, they've probably changed somebody's life just by being them. They'll probably make somebody smile just by being in their life. It's amazing how we can be our own worst enemy, where we can actually be the entire world for somebody and we don't realize it. And I think that's your mission in life, is to help people, because you have this beautiful way of saying to guys what they need to hear. But how can we follow along this journey? How can we help, donate to you when you're doing these charity gigs? How can we buy the book? How can we see your art? How can we just learn about it? How can we? What would you want people to follow along in the social media, websites? Obviously, purchasing some of your pictures, those sorts of things.
Well, I don't actually sell my pictures, but I do have the book. So I do have a book which is called Close Up: The Complete Guide to Macro Photography. You can buy that on Amazon. You can buy that on Waterstones, WH Smith. It's available in the States, I think, the end of this month or the end of next month, but you can pre-order it on Amazon anyway. So if you just type my name into Amazon, the book will come up. It's got a beautiful ruby-tailed wasp on the front cover, this blue metallic fucking amazing creature that we actually get in the UK, and you would never know because it's so small, man, but it's crazy. If you're going to follow me, Instagram and Twitter are probably the best spots, or X as it's called these days. And my website, I don't update it. I really don't update my website. I really should, but I just don't have time. But yeah, I mean, I am always open on my DMs. So like, if you drop me a request, I check all my requests and I get some mad stuff in there. Don't get me wrong. You know what I mean? But I do, if I see a message and it's somebody who's in need of help, I open that up and I'll be able to chat. You know what I mean? So yeah, come and follow me. Buy my book. Yeah, buy my book. There's a little bit of mindfulness in there. And it'll tell you the basics about photography and macro photography, and there's obviously some sick pictures in there too, so go and have a look. And if anything, it shows you, doesn't it? Look, 16 years ago, I tried to kill myself. Last month, I became a published author. I've done a lot of shit in between that. Your journey is never defined by one moment. Your journey is defined by all the moments. That's why it's a journey.
Well, that's it for another week, and thank you for listening. It's now time to take what you've learned and use it to develop and enhance your life with the key points mentioned. Listen, try it, embrace it, use it, and crush it. Now's your time to hit that next level in your life. If you liked this episode, then please leave a comment on the show notes or a review of the show on your podcast platform. Everything helps evolve the show. Until next week, keep seeking the next level in your life.